Welcome to the Maple Grove Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for being with us, along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
On this blustery day coming out of the cold, now we're getting a little snow here as well, so we'll talk a little bit about the cold a little later. We have the meeting from late February to talk about, shorter meeting, and also EDA. But before we get to those, Heidi, a work session before the meeting, and there were two main topics. The first was the North Metro Range at the design point, I understand. Give us some of those details.
Yeah, so we're working through the design for the North Metro Range Public Safety Training Facility Expansion Project. As you recall, we did get some state bonding for this expansion project in the fall special session. And so moving through schematic design, needed to do a quick check-in with the council to make sure we're all headed in the right direction. And this expansion is really going to be focused on creating kind of those multi-use training spaces for the scenario-based training. The actual second range, construction of the second range, we continue in discussions with Hennepin County with regard to that opportunity, but this initial expansion that the city's taking the lead on is really about that additional training space. So looking to move through the rest of that design process here over the coming months, get out to bid with this project later in the summer, and get under construction yet before the end of, the end of this coming construction season. So that project continues to move along.
And again, by the name, people should see that it is a much larger facility than just Maple Grove, correct? So you have lots of partners, both, I understand, from city standpoint and the county as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we serve about 20 different agencies out of that facility for law enforcement training, and our partners in that project are Plymouth, the city of Plymouth and Brooklyn Park. Hennepin County historically was a partner many years ago, and then they came back to us recently as kind of a customer, as similar to many of our others, but now we're kind of back in negotiations with them, or discussions about how they might come back as a partner in that project. But yeah, serve a lot of different agencies, local law enforcement, county, state agencies, even some federal agencies for law enforcement training.
Very good. All right, more to come as that moves along. Second item at the work session was talk about the housing study. Give us a little look back at how this came to be and what are the next steps.
Yeah, and so this really kind of came from concern about, how housing was being developed in Maple Grove. A lot of focus on that multifamily market, apartments, where we overbuilding that market. And so residents might recall that we enacted a moratorium on additional apartments last May, and since that time have been working on this housing study. And this really is a comprehensive housing study, so it looks at kind of every aspect of the housing market and what growth and employment might look like in Maple Grove. So encourage residents to go check out the PowerPoint that was presented last night at the work session is part of that agenda packet that's out there for people to look at. The whole study is actually posted out there. It's a pretty lengthy document, probably about 150 pages, a lot of information, a lot of data in there, but just some key takeaways and maybe some surprising things is, the housing or the makeup of residents in Maple Grove, I think, has shifted a bit in the last 20 years, that now married couples without children in their households are the most common household type, making up 33.5% of all households, and then followed by married couples with children at about 28%. So we're seeing that aging of our population, which really kind of drives housing choices and housing demand. And looking at kind of the current inventory of available for sale housing in Maple Grove, it currently is undersupplied. We only have about a 1.7 month supply of detached single family homes, and then a 1.1 month supply of other types of housing products, so townhomes, condominiums, and typically equilibrium would be about a 6 month supply. So, the housing market here in Maple Grove continues to be very strong, and particularly I think in those lower price points, anything around that $300,000 number moves very quickly on the market because there is a high demand for that, and we really don't see a lot of new construction in a single family detached home in that price range. Really hard to do with land costs, infrastructure costs, and then just the cost of construction. So that market remains really strong. We do look at our, I think some things prove themselves out in this study is that, through 2025, the number of multifamily units that are under construction really serve that market. So we're kind of at that point of saturation. So we're going to be looking at that and what that means from a zoning perspective if we want to make some tweaks there. And then continues to be a high demand for that senior housing type, especially in the independent living. the vacancy rate for active adult units is 0.1%, and there we would like to see like a 5% vacancy rate, and just really a high demand for that. And again, as we see kind of our population age in Maple Grove, I think the demand for that type of senior housing will continue to grow. So good report here. Encourage people to go on the website, on the council agendas, and take a look at that. We're going to be bringing back some recommendations to council basis what we found here, some tweaks we might want to make to some land use and zoning, maybe some programs, that kind of a thing. So more to come on this one, but good to get this report out to the council.
What is the process of getting this information to developers? My guess would be they'd be very interested in maybe current landowners in some parts of Maple Grove as well. How does that work? How do they get this information to kind of see the vision of the city? Yeah,
so we readily share this study with developers or housing builder, that market. It's available on our website, so that it's readily available to them. And we've had multiple requests, we want to see that housing study. And we wanted to make sure that the council got that information and that the council accepted. So on the regular agenda last night too was to accept that report. But now that's available to developers, and it kind of helps them kind of understand, our thinking in terms of any changes going forward is what was contained in that report and study.
Very good.
Yep.
All right, let's move ahead to the council meeting from, again, the 16th, about 38 minutes long, a couple items that took a little bit more time. Nothing pulled from consent. The first item was a public hearing related to the CDBG funds, which again are the Community Development Block Grant funds. Tell us about this annual process and what the numbers were. Yeah,
so another item kind of related to housing, our Community Development Block Grant funds. We are allocated a certain amount of funds every year. It's about $190,000 through the federal program that comes down through the county, and these funds are dedicated to housing efforts. And so the three areas that we kind of divvy up our funds with is the West Hennepin Affordable Land Trust, which acquires single-family homes as a means to create affordable home ownership options for families. And then the Hennepin County Rehabilitation Loan Program, which offers forgivable home repair and maintenance loans to those in our city that meet certain income qualifications. So that's kind of that preservation of more affordable housing. And then we do dedicate some of this money to the upkeep of our own scattered site housing program. The city owns and operates about 28 housing units for affordable housing for families. So good CDBG funding that all gets dedicated to supporting affordable housing options in Maple Grove.
Very good. Second public hearing of the night was related to public comment prior to the body-worn camera program. Tell us a little, again, background on this, and this has been discussed for a little while as well.
Yeah, so we've taken multiple steps here. We had a work session with the council to talk about our recommendations for moving forward with body-worn cameras, and then on January 19th, the council approved the contracts. We're moving forward with Axon Enterprises for our body-worn camera system, and this also will address in-squad cameras as well. We're going to be replacing that equipment. So one of the requirements for implementing body-worn camera systems is that you have to publish your policy and then receive public comment on that. So we did that following the January 19th meeting, and so the purpose on last night was to accept those comments and receive any others, of course, that night for folks that came through. We didn't receive a whole lot of comments. I think, early on in the body-worn camera story, there was probably more scrutiny and interest, and now it's just become kind of a standard, I guess, for police departments. And so we're looking forward to getting this implemented, and look to see that move forward over the next few months with full implementation coming probably around June, July.
Okay. Let's move ahead to some of the updates from different departments in the city at the council meeting in February. First, community development. They have a planning commission meeting coming up on the 22nd, and it sounds like a couple of the housing projects we've been talking about are back.
Yeah, so full agenda for the 22nd of February planning commission meeting. They'll have the Edgewater on Cook Lake. That's that 58 lot, small lot, single family development out there. Avery Park, that's 124 units. That's up kind of that redevelopment site just north of downtown Osseo up there off of Jefferson Highway. That one's coming back. And then we have a residential variance near Eagle Eagle Lake. So 3 housing-related projects coming forward on the 22nd.
Another item we've touched on a few times is some commission openings, and it sounds like the process is moving along there.
Yeah, they moving through interviews for Arbor Committee, and then the council will be interviewing Planning Commission applicants on February 23rd. So hopefully have an appointment on that coming forward in March.
And finally, from planning, those looking for a new place to eat, there's a new place open, and they're going to have an official opening coming up soon.
Yeah, so this is the Great Greek Mediterranean Grill. They're going to be celebrating their official grand opening on Monday, February 22nd at 11 a.m. And they'll have, of course, proper COVID protocols in place. But they've been open for a while now, and I've heard great reviews. We've even had that for a council dinner one night, so that was good. But they have great traditional Greek and Eastern European foods, and right there on Main Street in the former Pyology space.
Excellent. Let's move ahead to Public Works, and we have to talk cold if we're talking Public Works at this time of the year. Things have been pretty good, though. You think with this cold weather there might be water problems? Not too many?
Yeah, so we've fared pretty well. I mean, this is the kind of weather where, equipment breaks down. Things just don't operate well at those types of temperatures, but we have fared pretty well. We've only had a few equipment issues. We have had a couple water pipe issues, mainly in private buildings, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
One minor water main break. So we've fared okay. And now, we always say now comes the time where we find out what broke during or what got busted when it was frozen. So the next few days will be interesting as things start to unthaw a bit.
Another item from Public Works is looking along I-94. We've seen some of the noise walls going up, and to get those noise walls up, you have to do a little clearing. What is that process now that's underway? Yeah,
so residents might see as they travel along 94 some additional tree removal, shrub removal along that corridor where they're going to be putting those noise walls in. I think it's certainly going to be a change for a while, getting used to that throughout the corridor, those noise walls. We haven't experienced much of that, but for the southern end of Maple Grove. So just look for that to be happening along the corridor in the coming weeks.
All right. Final note about the cold as well, the emerald ash borer. Question brought up, interesting one related to, is this super cold going to get rid of them? And it sounds like there's a little experience that maybe not as much as thought.
Yeah, in past years, in the past 2 to 3 years, we've had these severe cold snaps where we've had, 20 below zero, that kind of a thing. And I think the Department of Agriculture wondered a bit, would this edge back, emerald ash borer and kill off some of the bugs and the larvae, whatnot. But I think they really haven't seen a whole lot of that reduction as much as they thought. So we continue to see emerald ash borer grow in the community, and we have a program in place that we're dealing with those trees in the right-of-way, public trees, that kind of a thing, and certainly have resources available for residents, not only from a treatment perspective, but then when you get to a certain point, it's really about removal and replacement. So a lot of information available on our website there, but we think the cold doesn't help us as much as we'd like it to there.
We figured that out. maplegrovemn.gov, the website, will give that to you again at the end of the program. A few items you had to update on. It sounds like the Housing for All breakfast is coming up soon. What is that breakfast and when? Yeah,
so we move through a lot of our legislative breakfasts in the spring months as we get into the legislative session. So the Housing for All legislative breakfast will be Friday, February 26th at 8 a.m. It's a online format this year, and this is really an opportunity for our local legislators and city council members to come together and talk about housing issues in the community.
Speaking of the legislature, you're keeping an eye on what's going on. Any updates on any of the 3 areas you're watching?
Yeah, so we, I think 2 of our bills so far have been introduced, and so we have bill numbers on those, but we continue to watch. It's been really backed up in the revisor's office. A lot of the staff that works at the Capitol has been working remotely, making the process a little bit more slowly, but we do anticipate moving into kind of the hearing phase here, probably in early to mid-March.
We'll keep you up to date on the report. Final note you had was about March 11th, a date to put on your calendar for the State of the City. What group is this with? Yeah,
so this is the I-94 Chamber of Commerce, State of the City, and we'll be participating on March 11th in the morning for that event. We'll have staff providing an update about what's happening in the business world in Maple Grove. All
right, and other cities included as well. I understand Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Osseo will be in on that discussion as well. Then it went into an EDA meeting on the 16th, and the EDA main topic was the SAVE grant program. And this sounds familiar, like an extension of something we've heard before. tell us a little bit more of what it is and what was decided.
Yeah, so this is another round of funding to help support our business community. We did, of course, 2 rounds previously with some of our CARES funds that we received. So looking at, helping our businesses to make it through this winter. Hopefully this is maybe our last pass here, getting to the winter when we're moving through the vaccination process and we're starting to see things open back up, but helping people hang on just a little bit longer with us here. So this is a grant program. So before we were doing kind of a forgivable loan program, this is a grant program. It's available to those who've received previous funding through the other 2 rounds of funding, and then new businesses as well. And I think the criteria is really around, have you been negatively impacted financially by the pandemic? And there's other employment requirements, that kind of a thing. So encourage you to reach out to Brett Angel, our economic development manager. He'll be managing this program. The council approved about $350,000 to go out in this program, and we're using some funds from our economic development revolving loan fund for this. I think it's just really important to the city council to make sure that we're assisting business to hang on as long as they can. And we've heard from a lot of them that the 2 rounds of funding that we've done previously with the CARES funds really helped some of them to keep their doors open. And so that's really our goal, is to just kind of hang on with us here. We're going to help save you, and hang on with us till we can get through this and get to the summer months.
Again, city's website, all that information, and Brett Angel, the specific person to talk to about that. So that's your recap of the council and EDA meeting from the middle of February. Now let's move ahead to some other things happening in the city, and the first happens to be a radio station putting a little spotlight on the city. What's this all about?
Yeah, so this is kind of fun. Maple Grove is pleased to be the 102.9, the Wolf radio station's hometown of the week. And so they've been they've taped some segments from residents and also from the mayor. And so if you tune in to 102.9, you might hear some little stories about what's great about Maple Grove. So we really appreciate the recognition from the Wolf 102.9.
Very nice. We have job openings in the city, some that are seasonal and one that is a new job opening. Tell us about both.
Yeah, so we have a recruitment for an assistant fire chief for professional standards and training. This is kind of a restructured position from the retirement of one of our deputy fire chiefs earlier this year. And so that position is open for recruitment through February 21. And then, of course, now we're starting into the recruitment for our seasonal positions coming up for this summer. And so that is in both Public Works and Parks and Recreation. So we really encourage people to take a look and see what opportunities there are for the summer.
Fantastic. Earlier we mentioned the State of the City going on with the I-94 Chamber, but last year Maple Grove did their own State of the City, and that's going to happen again in a little bit different way, virtual way. Tell us about that program and how people can see it. Yeah,
so we'll be releasing that video around the week of February 25th, getting that out. That's kind of the timing of when we would have had that event at the community center. So Mayor Stephenson had an opportunity to sit down with you and have a conversation about the state of the city and what's been going on for the past year and what we're looking forward to. Brett Angel also taped a segment that'll be aired with that talks about what's happening in the business community. So folks can look for that video. We're going to be sharing that out on social media, the city's website, and that'll be broadcast the week of February 25th.
The mayor had plenty to say. I had to come off after about 15 minutes. He could have gone on for 15 hours. So, but it's good, concise information. Let's talk about Code Red, something new in the city through the fire department, I understand.
Yeah, so Code Red is a mass notification system that we've recently signed a contract with this company to implement in Maple Grove. And really kind of one of the drivers of this was twofold. It was really early in the pandemic, and then as well as the civil unrest that we experienced last May and June. And there were times that myself and the director's team felt a little flat-footed in terms of how we were able to get communication out to residents in a timely fashion about really important sort of emergency information. A good example was the curfews when we had to implement those. We used all the tools that we had, but we really didn't have a great way to provide that emergency notification to residents. And so a number of cities have Code Red systems, especially up here in the Northwest Metro. So you may have seen it in other communities, but you do need to go on and sign up, and it'll send, you can sign up for whatever kind of tier of information that you're looking for. So emergency notifications, and then general alerts, and then community information. And it kind of defines what each of those are. So you know, if you're worried about getting overwhelmed with messages, there's a way to kind of manage that. But we do ask residents to go in and sign up for it. The system automatically will send messages to landlines. We get access to that database, but a lot of people, of course, no longer have a landline, and they rely on their cell phone for that kind of information. So we encourage all residents to go in and sign up for this. It was really important. We wanted this in place before we start entering into the next couple months here of the trials in Minneapolis, and wanting to be able to have a better communication tool. So encourage residents to get out and get that information. I was sharing with you earlier that I was looking at this app today, and you can see all the the cities in southern states through Texas and Oklahoma that have code red, and you can see kind of the issues that they're dealing with. It was kind of insightful to know what they're struggling with down there with this weather and the issues with power and whatnot. So it's a pretty powerful tool, and we're really we're grateful that we were able to get this implemented in advance of the next couple of months here.
So go to the city's website again, maplegrovemn.gov, to find out more information and how to sign up. So that's the way the city gets information to you. Here's an information way you can get information to the city. See, click, fix. We've talked about this a few times. How should residents use this?
Yeah, so this is an application for Maple Grove residents to report any non-emergency issues to the city, such as potholes, streetlight outage, code enforcement type issues. We can take those on See, Click, Fix. It's a really great system because it drives right to our asset management system, and so it collects all those complaints, and then we can track those, and then it gets that work order right to the staff who can go out and deal with those issues. It's a really efficient way for residents to get their complaint lodged and then have us respond. And then just a reminder, it's not for emergency things. Anything, emergency, police and fire, we still encourage people to reach out via 911.
Very good. Let's leave you with a couple things for some fun in the area here in the coming months and weeks. And the first is Wonders of Winter. We've primed this up a little bit. When is it coming? What are some of the activities?
Yeah, so they've hit the weather jackpot here and getting this cold snap to break. And so Saturday, February 20th at Central Park. This is our annual Wonders of Winter event. It's held from 1 to 4. So great things planned this year, all, of course, in accordance with the pandemic protocols. But professional kite flyers, snowshoeing, a scavenger hunt, outdoor bowling. They were building the little bowling lanes earlier this week. That was fun to see. Ice luminaries, snow castle building, and then of course the skating loop will be open that day as well.
Great fun. We'll talk more skating in a second. How about swimming? If you're done with the cold, you might want to take a swim. You can help people with that. Yeah,
so both the leisure pool and the lap pool are open. Reservations are required for both, and then they are having some fitness classes, swim fitness classes, and arthritis classes, as well as swimming lessons are offered. So a lot of things are back in operation and following COVID protocols there. And then reservations are also required for the indoor playground, gym, and ice skating. And all that information is available on our website.
All right, and skating as well. We've got the loop, but we've also got neighborhood skating as well. The ice must be great.
I think the ice is very good. It's been very strong. So neighborhood rinks are open, as well as the skate loop at Central Park, and still requires a reservation over at Central Park. All right, and the website, a great place to find out all that information. Let's leave you with the website and that next meeting date. Website again is maplegrovemn.gov. A lot of information there about some of the application processes that are going on, some of those summer jobs. So you see it right there in the middle of the screen. Also, Monday, March 1st is the next council meeting at the Government Center. Phone number at the bottom of the screen. For Heidi Nelson, I'm Dave Kaiser. Thanks so much for joining us on the Maple Grove City Report.